Hello, my name is Andrea Magana, and I got Module 5. In this chapter, we are introduced to the different threads that intertwine with the theories we have learned so far. There are 10 different threads which include motivation, self-image, credibility, expectation, audience adaptation, social construction, shared meaning, narrative, conflict, and dialogue. These threads are essentially put in place to connect or to tell the difference between all the theories. For time purposes, I am only going to focus on one thread and the theory that intertwines with it. I ended up choosing the motivation thread, which intertwines with the social exchange theory. The social exchange theory is when someone analyzes a relationship and sees that the benefits outweigh the cost. And based on this information, one can make their decision to stay or to leave said circumstance or relationship. An example of this in my real life is when I used to work at Whataburger during my first semester of college. A typical day at work consisted of working 9-hour shifts surrounded by a large number of people in a crowded kitchen, an oversized uniform with an obnoxiously orange shirt, the grease in the air making it impossible to breathe, and loud chatter and constant voices coming from your headset. At the time, it was difficult for me to find an entry-level job since I was on a work permit. Whataburger being the only one to call me back, I essentially ignored the cost and focused much more on the benefits of finally being able to receive a paycheck to pay for my school. I had also made some really good friends in my work environment, which is why I believe it took me longer to make the decision to quit in the end. I did not have a motivation to leave, and I didn't really want to look for it. I was enjoying myself. However, 9 months into the job, the work strain began to take its toll on my schoolwork and personal health. Staying up till 3 in the morning at work and having to clean up throw up from tables, I began to really see the cost outweighing the benefits. My pay at the time was about $8.90, and I was working 39 to 40 hours a week, all while going to school. I was beginning to regret my time at this job and made the decision to try applying to new jobs. I ended up applying to H-E-B as a checker, also known as a cashier, since I had enough experience handling money, and within a week, I was called for an interview. The whole process hit me kind of quickly, and I began to feel a bit guilty at first because I thought I was betraying my coworkers. Deep down, I had also gotten really comfortable with my work, and I really didn't want to raise my anxiety and certainty starting a new job. However, with time, I began to realize it was time for me to seek better opportunities for myself, and I was motivated to be in better work conditions with a better pay and a more communicative team. And although my time at Whataburger was difficult, I really don't regret my time there since it taught me patience and helped me build a tough backbone when it came to rude customers. Now in my new job, I have flexible hours, a supportive management that wants me to do well in school to grow into the company, and I have a much higher pay than before, and I am much more motivated to do well in my job. And now that I've made some inferences, I will discuss how these inferences can be transferred out of the workplace environment to personal life. These can include a friendship or relationship with a significant other that's gone sour. Over time, we are exposed to different circumstances, and things we considered benefits could now turn into cost, or we realize the costs are beginning to weigh a lot more than before. And our motivation to keep a relationship or friendship going dissipates, and we really move on to the next. In conclusion, out of all the 10 different threads, we have mainly focused on motivation, but we also managed to include self-image and expectation in the underlying message. This further proves that no matter how narrow we try to be, these threads can be shown woven into our stories without really even trying. This matters in the end because knowing about all these threads can help us identify why we do things and narrow down our options. We can act differently in our decisions by taking out our own bias and seeing what really goes on beyond the surface. In the end, asking ourselves, is the juice worth the squeeze in the end?